we now come to the Saptamatrukas, or the seven mothers. The origin of these Saptamatrukas lies in folk mother goddesses. Through narratives in the Puranas, they became a part of the Shaiva and Shakta Sampradayas. There are literary references in texts like the Mahabharata, where there is a story of Andhakasura, Shiva killing Andhakasura, and the seven mothers assisting him, where the story of the seven mothers or the Sapta Matrukas is related to the Shiva sect. In the Markandeya Purana, we have the story of the Matrukas who are created to help the goddess Ambika and Chamunda to kill Raktabija and ally of the demon Shumbha. And here in the Markandeya Purana, the Matrukas are associated with the Shakta sect. Chamunda, who is a very fierce aspect of the mother goddess, is also considered to be one of the seven mothers. And the story of the seven mothers is also found in the Varaha and Kurma Puranas and a few of the Agamas. So here we have the depiction of Andhakasura Vadha Murti of Shiva. This is from the Kailasa temple at Ellora. And here you can see the seven mothers. We cannot identify them which one is which, because first of all none of their heads have survived, and we cannot make out any ayudhas that they are holding, but they are a part of the narrative of the Andhakasura Vadha in the Shaiva sect. The cult of the Matrukas became very conspicuous in the Kushana period. In the early Kushana images, the Matrukas are either standing or seated in Bhadrasana, with their right hand showing the Abhaya Mudra and the left one holding a Kamandalu. And in the next stage of iconographic development, they are shown with a child sitting on their laps in various attitudes, or children playing around each one of them. So there is a possibility that from malevolent goddesses, they were gradually transformed into benevolent mother goddesses. Initially, if you see, all the goddesses had similar depictions. Then slightly later, these goddesses had developed animal heads. Like, for example, Varahi, the female aspect of Varaha, is shown with the head of a boar. Like here you can see. This is a depiction of the Sapta Matrukas from the Parshurameshwar temple at Bhuvaneshwar. So here you can see Varahi. And in the last stage of development, you see them with mounts and attributes. So already here, if you see, you can see these mother goddesses with their attributes and with their mounts. Like here you can see Indrani. Indrani is shown with a Vajra and the elephant as her mount.
Sneha,
Yes,
I would like to add here that in the Smritis also, they mention about the Matrika Puja. And it is mentioned along with the puja for Vinayaka. Vinayaka was also considered one of the spirits, right?
Yes,
so,
yes. In fact, yes. Yes, sir.
The Matrika Puja with the Vinayaka, and I think even in some of the sculptures also in Ellora and other places, you find the Vinayaka at one end of the panel, right?
Yes, so even here, if you see, sir, here there is Ganesh or Vinayaka at one end, and this could be Bhairava. So generally, the Matrukas are shown with Vinayaka and Bhairava, and here Bhairava is shown playing the Veena.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Here also we have the depiction of the seven mothers from the Kailasanath temple at Kanchipuram, dated to the 8th century CE. Here also we see them with fully developed attributes, and all of them have chhatras over their head. They are all wearing the typical Karanda Mukutas. Of course, there is a lot of, some of them are wearing the Karanda Mukutas, not all. Some of them also have the Jata. Mukuta. Here you can see Varahi clearly. Varahi is can be clearly identified because of her face as her face is that of a wild boar or the Varaha. Here, of course, they are not shown along with children, and their mounts also haven't been shown.
And it is very interesting, Sneha, that you mentioned
Yeah.
how they transformed from the malevolent to
Yeah.
benevolent. It is very
Yes.
similar to how Vinayaka also transformed, by
Yes.
from a devata which was primarily responsible for spirits and goblins to,
Yes.
Vigna Vinashaka, that murti that we
Yes.
have today. So it's very
Yes.
interesting to see their development that way.
Yes. Yes.
Please go
Very
ahead.
true, sir. And here, if you see in this shloka from the Devi Kavacham, we have, the description of the mounts of the seven goddesses. So Chamunda is seated on a preta or a dead body. Varahi is seated on a Mahisha. Then Aindri, that is Indrani, is seated on a Gaja. Vaishnavi is seated on the Garuda. Narasimhi, there is no description of the Vahana of Narasimhi and Shivaduti. Then Maheshwari is seated on a bull, that is Vrisharudha, and Kaumari is seated on a peacock or a shikin, it's called Shikhi Vahana. Then Ishwari is also Vrishavahana, and Brahmi or Brahmani is Hausam Arudha. So she is seated on a Hausa or a swan. So on the Devi Kavacham, we get the details of the Vahanas of the seven mothers. And who are the seven mothers? So they are Brahmi, Maheshwari Chaiva, Kaumari Vaishnavi Tatha, Varahi Tatha Indrani, Chamunda Saptamatrika. So we have Brahmi, Maheshwari, Kaumari, Vaishnavi, Varahi, Indrani, and Chamunda or Chamundi, who are the seven Matrukas. And here you can see the depiction of the seven Matrukas at Ellora. This is not a very good picture, and not only six Matrukas can be seen. But here you can see Bhairava with the Veena sitting in the company of the Matrukas, and here you can see them shown in the company of children. And below them, their mounts have been carved. So here, this is Maheshwari, and below Maheshwari, you can see that her mount, that is the Vrisha, has been depicted. Now, there are descriptions of the seven mothers, which are where they are decorated with different kinds of ornaments, fitted with gems, divine necklaces with the best of pearls. Then the mothers have different weapons like the conch, the discus, many different kinds of weapons, and the mothers are bearing these weapons to protect their devotees for the welfare of the gods and to destroy the daityas. And whatever is the form of the male god, whatever ayudas he is holding, whatever ornaments he is wearing, whatever mount he is riding, all these are the same for his Shakti. All these were given to his Shakti, and this was done for her. This was done to assist her in the fight against the Asuras. So now we've already seen the names of the Saptamatrukas. So we have Brahmani, who is the Shakti of Brahma, Maheshwari, who is the Shakti of Maheshwara, Kaumari, who is the Shakti of Kumara or Kartikeya, Vaishnavi, who is the Shakti of Vishnu, Varahi, the Shakti of Varaha, Indrani, who is the Shakti of Indra, Chamunda or Yami, who is the Shakti of Yama. And Jane Banerjee says that even Narasimhi was added in the later times and she replaced one of them. So the lists differ, which one exactly she replaced. Narasimhi is the female version of Narasimha. Okay, I'm just skipping these descriptions because we are running a little late. We have descriptions of the goddesses in the Suprabhedagama, where it is said that Brahmani should be sculpted like Brahma, Maheshwari should be sculpted like Maheshwara, Vaishnavi should be sculpted like Vishnu, Varahi should be shown as a short woman with an angry face and bearing a plough as a weapon, and Indrani should be shown like Indra. Then Chamunda must look like a terrific woman with disheveled hair, dark, with 4 hands, and she should hold a trishula in one hand and a kapala in the other. And the images should be seated, and each one should have 2 hands in the Abhaya and Varada mudras, and the other two should be holding weapons similar or the same like their male counterparts. And they should be seated in Padmasana. So now we come to Lakshmi. Lakshmi is known as Shri, Padma, or Kamala. We have the very well known Shri Sukta in the Rig Veda, which describes the greatness of Shri or Lakshmi. And here it is addressed to Agni, that is Jata Veda, where the Rishi says that invoke for me, O Agni, the goddess Lakshmi, who shines like gold, yellow in color, wearing gold and silver garlands, blooming like the mountain, the embodiment of wealth. O Agni, that is O Jata Veda, invoke for me that unfailing Lakshmi, being blessed by whom I shall win wealth, cattle, horses, and men. So, right from the Rigvedic period, Lakshmi was associated with wealth, and we get her iconographic description in the Sri Sukta itself. Then we have got descriptions of Lakshmi further in the Sri Sukta, where it is described that she has a line of horses in front of her, a series of chariots in the middle, and who is awakened by trumpeting elephants. So here there is a connection between elephants and Lakshmi. Also, she is said to be the one with a pleasant smile, whose luster is like that of burnished gold, who is blazing with splendor, who is seated on the lotus and is beautiful like the lotus. Padme Sthitam Padma Varnam, whose skin is like a lotus. So this is the description of the earliest description of Lakshmi that we get in the Sri Sukta. Then further we get descriptions of her being radiant, wearing different kinds of ornaments. Okay, she is shining like gold. She is like the moon, who is fresh with anointment. She's adorned with lotuses. So lotuses are again associated with her, and she is yellow in color, who wears garlands of lotuses. So lotuses and elephants, something which is still closely associated with Lakshmi, are associated with her right from the earliest times. So generally Lakshmi is shown seated on a lotus and holds in each of her 2 arms one lotus each. She is flanked by 2 elephants who are pouring water on her head. Lakshmi, the term Lakshmi is derived from the term Lakshma, which means symbol, and Lakshmi is the symbol. She is the Lakshma of beauty and bounty. In art, she is depicted mainly in 3 forms, all by herself, Lakshmi, Lakshmi in association with Vishnu, and Gajalakshmi. We have representations of Padma or Gajalakshmi right from the Shunga period, where if you see, Lakshmi is the embodiment of the earth, the elephants are the embodiment of the clouds, and the water that the elephants are pouring on her is the embodiment of the rainfall, and rain is making the earth fertile. So this symbol, this form of Lakshmi, of Gajalakshmi, is a representation, is a symbol of prosperity, food, and Aushadhi. Then there is a reference in the Ramayana that on the Pushpaka Vimana of Ravana, Gajalakshmi was carved. And Gajalakshmi, what is very important is that Gajalakshmi in the early times is seen in Hindu, Buddhist, and Jaina art. In the early period, she was Dhruta Pankaja, holding a lotus in her hand, and as if she was fanned by the lotus. We get this description of hers in the Raghuvansha Mahakavya of Kalidasa. And in the Kushana period, Lakshmi is also shown along with Kubera. She is shown along with Ardhanarishwara Vishnu, and Skanda, and she is also shown on the Gupta coins. Here is a depiction of Lakshmi from the Kushana period. In the Lakshmi of the Kushana period, it can't be seen here, but she is decorated with lotuses. She's holding an Ankusha, Parashu, Danda, and mirror. Here, if you see, she is shown holding a long lotus with a full bloom lotus in her hand with a long stem. Her right hand is in the Abhaya Mudra, and also you can see a hood. I had referred to that hood. So here you can see her hold with a hood on her head. According to Vishnu Dharmottara Purana, Lakshmi holds a Sri Phala, Shankha in her upper hand, and Padma and Amrita Ghata in her lower hands. According to Ananda Kumaraswamy, Lakshmi is independently depicted in three forms: Padma Graha, that is holding a lotus, Padma Sthita, sitting on a lotus, and Padma Vatsa, that is surrounded by a lotus creeper. So here she is shown holding a lotus. This is from Sanchi. So this is Lakshmi holding a lotus. Then here is Lakshmi seated on a lotus. I could not get a picture of the third Padma Vatsa Devi. Then we have Lakshmi with Vishnu. Generally, Lakshmi is shown in the Sthanaka, no, not Sthanaka, sorry, Asana and Shayana form. Asana is seated form of Vishnu, and Shayana is the sleeping, the reclining form of Vishnu. In the Asana, she is in the Vama Lalitasana, where she is embracing Vishnu. Here you can see this is Lakshmi Narayana or Lakshmi Vishnu from the temple, the Hoysareshwar temple from Halebeedu. And she's holding a Padma in her left hand. And there are many forms of Lakshmi and Vishnu together, like Lakshmi Keshava, Lakshmi Narayana, and they are similar to the above description. We also have Ardhanarishwara Vishnu, where the female half holds the ayudhas like Amrita Ghata, mirror, manuscript, and a lotus. As you can see here, this is the manuscript, this is the lotus, this is the Amrita Ghata, and the male half holds all the ayudhas of Vishnu. This image is also known as Vasudeva Kamalaja form, and this is more popular in Kashmir and Nepal, not very popular in other forms of art in India, other regional art forms. Then we have Lakshmi with Ananta Shayana Vishnu, where she is massaging or pressing the feet of Vishnu. Such images are commonly found from the Gupta period. Here you can see this is Lakshmi, where she is pressing or massaging the foot of Vishnu, who is reclining. This is from the Dashavatara temple at Devgarh in Uttar Pradesh. This is also Vishnu reclining and Lakshmi massaging her feet. Then we also have the very popular depiction of Gajalakshmi, and in fact, in the early times, or even like right till the 10th or the 11th century CE, the most popular depiction of Lakshmi was in the form of Gajalakshmi. And in the Vishnu Purana, there is a description that during the churning of the ocean, that is the Samudra Mantana, Lakshmi emerged from the ocean, seated on a lotus and being given a purificatory bath by two elephants. She is also depicted on coins in this form, and in sculpture she is identified as Gajalakshmi. This is a common motif in Hindu, Buddhist, and Jaina art. She appears in Buddhist art before she appears in Hindu art, and sculptures of Gajalakshmi are found at many sites. And Ananda Kumaraswamy has identified Gajalakshmi with Sri Devi of the Sri Sukta. Then in the Harivansha, there is a description of Ekanamsha being flanked by Balarama and Krishna similar to Gajalakshmi flanked by elephants. And there is an image from Rajasthan where Gajalakshmi has been flanked by Balarama and Krishna. This is a depiction of Gajalakshmi from a very old coin, not very clear. This is a depiction of Gajalakshmi. She is seated here in Bhadrasana on a lotus. She is being given a bath by two elephants. This is another depiction of Lakshmi. She is standing on a lotus and also holding the stem of a lotus in her hand and pressing her breast with the other. She is being given a bath here. This is from the site of Pitarkhora near Aurangabad in Maharashtra. This is now in this particular image is in the CSMVS museum in Mumbai, a very realistic, beautiful depiction. This is from Mahabalipuram, where she is seated on a lotus, on a Padmasana, flanked by lady attendants. And here one elephant is bathing her. This is Gajalakshmi again from Ellora. This is Gajalakshmi from Odisha, Bhuvaneshwar. Where she is seated on a lotus, carrying a lotus in her hand and being bathed by the elephants. And this is from Shravanabelagola. This is from a Jaina site. So Buddhist, Hindu and Jaina sites had depiction of Gajalakshmi. Now we come to the last part of our lecture, and we will be discussing about goddess Saraswati. Goddess Saraswati, as we all know, is the goddess of learning, and she is associated with Brahma. She's also a river goddess in the Rig Veda. She is in fact the mightiest river in the Rig Veda. She is seated on a white lotus draped in white attire, and her complexion is also white. This is an image of Saraswati from the Jaina site of Kankali Tila in Mathura, where she's shown, her head is unfortunately not there, but she's shown holding a manuscript. And this dates to the 1st or the 2nd centuries of the Common Era, and this is an inscribed image in the Brahmi script. According to the Amshubhedagama, she has 4 hands. She holds in her right hand an Akshamala and the Vyakhyana Mudra. So here she is holding an Akshamala and her lower right hand is in the Vyakhyana Mudra. In the left hand, she holds a manuscript and a white lotus. Here it is not so. Here she is holding a water pot. This is an image of Saraswati from the Brihadishwara temple at Gangaikonda, Cholapuram, constructed by the King Rajendra I, the great Chola king. She is surrounded by munis who are worshipping her. She wears a Yajnopavita and a Jata Mukuta. This is the Jata Mukuta and this is the Yajnopavita. And she is decked with ornaments. And she is seated on a lotus, as you can see. In the Vishnu Dharmottara Purana, Saraswati stands on a lotus in the Samabhanga or straight erect form. She holds a kamandalu and she also carries a veena with a bamboo stem. In the Devi Mahatmyam, she is described as holding a Ankusha, Veena, Akshamala and Pustaka. She is represented in this form in the Hoysala sculptures. Here you can see her holding a Pasha, and she is holding the Veena here. She is holding an Akshamala. Only the Pustaka is not very clearly seen. Here is Saraswati from Khidrapur, where she holds a Ankusha, then an Akshamala, a Pasha, and a Pustak or manuscript in her hand. This is a very beautiful depiction of Saraswati. This is a much later depiction of Saraswati where she's holding the Akshamala, and here she's holding a longish object which is not clear, and this is the remnants of her Pasha, and she's attended by two of her attendants, and unfortunately her lower left hand is broken, so we cannot make out what she was holding in her hand. So this is another depiction of Saraswati. So to conclude, the iconography of the mother, the divine mother, is all about visualizing the mother principle. All aspects of the goddess have been covered in iconography, right from a very benevolent Saraswati to the fierce Chamunda and Kali. Forms become more elaborate over the course of time. There are more mythological associations attached. Cultural factors are also responsible for changes in the iconography. The fierce form of the goddess is extremely popular, which is beautifully balanced by her nature as the supreme mother. There are, of course, temporal spatial variations in the depictions of the goddess, but through all her depictions, whether it is Durga, whether it is Mahishasuramardini, whether it is Lakshmi, Saraswati, or Kali, her essential femininity and her aspect as the primordial, as the Adi Shakti, as the Adi Mata, was always highlighted and conspicuous. Thank you very much. Sir, I'm done.
Yeah. It's been a wonderful lecture, Sneha.
Thank you.
I think trying to even encapsulate, this huge, I would say, treasure of architecture and iconography that you have on the mother goddess, starting right from the Durga images, the Mahishasuramardini, and right till the later times. It's indeed a very difficult job, and I think you have tried your best to try to
Yes.
encapsulate a short period of time. I think
Yes.
it's a fantastic series of sessions, Sneha, and I'm sure the audience would have loved it.
Thank you.
And you can see, as you were mentioning, right? You were mentioning about Durga, Kali, and various the images in from the Chola period. I think most of the audience can also correlate with many of the images they see of Mariamman and other famous popular deities that we have in the south with these iconographies that we saw. So it's been a fantastic session, Sneha.
Thank you,
And,
sir.
I'm sure this will act as a very good starting point for the future sessions that we're going to be having in the series. So once everybody has these kind of aspects internalized, I'm sure it's going to be a great series ahead. Once again, I thank you, Sneha, for this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Rasikas, we had this beautiful session introducing all of us to at least giving us a glimpse of the various aspects of Shakti iconography. In the future sessions on Subhu's Corner, you will have various other aspects of the Shakta tradition and the Shakti worship being covered. So please do keep watching the sessions on Subhu's Corner on the YouTube channel and the Facebook page. Until we meet for the next session, Namaskara.